Bitwise has launched an Avalanche-focused fund built around institutional blockchain customization. The tension is whether institutions want a public chain, a private chain, or customizable infrastructure that sits between both. Bitwise CIO Backs is the search lens here, but the useful read is narrower. Which confirmed details prove the story, and which claims still need follow-through. The first thing to track is fund demand, because that is where the opening claim becomes measurable instead of just attention. This opening pressure is tied to April 15 launch, and that detail sets the stakes before any broader market reaction can be judged. The viewer value is knowing the exact pressure point before the louder narrative gets ahead of the evidence. The confirmed baseline is simple. The thesis links Avalanche to tokenized assets, stablecoins, onchain finance, and custom blockchains with their own validators. That gives the story its frame without needing broad market noise. The number or status that matters most at this stage is custom validators, while Avalanche Fund remains the actor or object carrying the story. This scene is about what is already on the table before the market, users, or regulators start reacting. It also keeps the timeline clean, because the next step only makes sense after the existing status is separated from the claims still waiting for proof. In this case, the baseline matters because tokenization thesis is already part of the setup. Most people arrive after the move is obvious and the easy upside is gone. We focus on serious crypto education and high-quality signals before the crowd rushes in, so you can understand the setup earlier and move sooner. If you want that edge, visit the link below now. The mechanism is what makes the headline useful. The mechanism is subnet-style customization. Institutions can define rules and validators instead of using only one shared chain. Bitwise CIO Backs matters at this point because the mechanism decides whether the event is durable, fragile, or still only a claim. In plain English, custom chains is the working part of the story, and institutional rules is the structural signal that shows why it can change behavior. If that mechanism fails, the headline loses force. If it holds, the story has a clearer path from attention to real consequence. That is why the mechanism has to be tested through fund demand, not through sentiment alone. The affected side is specific. Allocators, institutions, and Layer 1 competitors are affected because the fund frames AVAX as differentiated rather than dominant. This is where the story becomes practical rather than abstract. For crypto allocators, the immediate issue is targeted AVAX exposure. That does not automatically prove a final outcome, but it explains who has to adjust first and why the event matters outside the headline. The practical readout is not about guessing direction. It is about identifying the group that feels the constraint, risk, or opportunity first. If that group does not react, the story may have less force than the headline suggests. The unresolved piece should stay separate from the confirmed facts. The open question is whether real-world asset growth on Avalanche keeps rising enough to justify targeted exposure. That open point matters because viewers should not treat RWA traction as settled while needs follow-through remains the current status. The cleanest confirmation point is fund demand, since it would show whether the early evidence is turning into follow-through. Until that appears, the careful reading is to keep the event in view without turning the missing detail into a conclusion. This split protects the viewer from treating a plausible scenario as a verified result. Most people arrive after the move is obvious and the easy upside is gone. We focus on serious crypto education and high-quality signals before the crowd rushes in, so you can understand the setup earlier and move sooner. If you want that edge, visit the link below now. The next signal is concrete. The next signal is fund demand and whether named institutional use cases turn into larger on-chain settlement activity. For Bitwise CIO Backs, that means the story should be judged by settlement growth, not by louder speculation. If that signal appears, the market or user reaction has a clearer basis. If it does not, the safer read is that the headline has not yet become proof of a lasting change. If viewers remember one trigger, it should be settlement growth, because that is the signal the story can actually prove.